Hi, my name is Phyllis Jeans. I am recording an informational speech for Amanda Rice. Here's the audience. Miss Amanda.
Okay, so 11 years ago, I was like most moms. I was not so patiently waiting for my first child to be born. I had this vision that included me, my son, and my husband going on all these adventures together, living this great life, stuff like that. About 3 years later, that changed. I started noticing things about my son that was not like a typical child. We would take him to church. He would start crying 30 minutes after we got there, like he was dying. He would scream at the top of his lungs for 30 minutes straight until we would gather our belongings and leave. We took him to the emergency room thinking maybe it was a bellyache, maybe he was sick, stuff like that. That was not ever the case. They never figured out what was wrong. I would sit there in church and cry because I would see all these other moms and their kids were interacting. Their kids were sitting so quietly, drawing and playing and stuff like that. And then I had this screaming child. Like, what did I do wrong? Later, when he was about 3 years old, I had a baby girl. I started noticing that she was interacting with other kids. Even as a baby, she would smile, she would talk, she would do all these things that he never did. If she cried, it was literally because she was wet, hungry, or sleepy. Every time she cried, he would become violent. He would become violent because the pitch of her scream, he could not handle it. That's when I knew something was wrong. When a child becomes violent towards their baby siblings who have done nothing to them, there's an issue. So I took him to see his PCP. We figured out that it was something more than just ADHD. There was something there. We could not figure it out, but we knew. He sent me to see a pediatric psychologist. That psychologist diagnosed him with Asperger's syndrome, which is high-functioning autism. So I started doing like all parents given this diagnosis, and I started researching, figuring out what I need to do to get him past these little quirks. While researching, I learned that according to Autism Speaks, early diagnosis and intervention for autism are more likely to have major, long-term positive effects on symptoms and skills. Those, especially if it's done before the age of 2, age of 3 at the latest. That's early intervention. They come in, they say, hey, these are the things we need to work on. This is how we're going to get there. And hopefully it makes things better. It doesn't always happen, but it does. It did for us. Before the age of 3, their brains are like plastic. They can be molded and shaped one way or the other. If you get treatment, positive treatment, and they start showing positive signs instead of regressing, then you know you're doing right. Otherwise, you got to find a new avenue. The CDC now states that 1 in 59 children have some form of autism. When Jacob was diagnosed, it was 1 in 88. So it's becoming more and more prevalent every day. They recommend children to be screened for developmental delays and screened for disabilities during well-child checkup visits at 9, 18, and 24 months. They also state that children should be screened specifically for autism spectrum disorder at their well-child visits at 18 and 24 months. That's what I learned during this journey. Thank you.